Hello, hello, friends. How are you? Happy Monday. Coming on a little bit late, but feeling that now's a really good time. It's been one of those days where, oh my gosh, everything just seemed to keep like snowballing in terms of things to do, but always blessed and happy, especially when it's work related. So for those of you that are new to me, hello, my name is Brooke-Sidney. I am a spiritual wellness coach as well as a soul story strategist. That means I help people love themselves and the lives they are presently living. And I do that in two really fun and amazing ways. The first as a spiritual wellness coach. So that means that essentially I help people, especially my single ladies and single mamas, heal what has remained so far unhealed that they're carrying around that's not allowing them to feel free, to feel at peace, to connect better and deeper with God, as well as feeling more power and living in their purpose. And of course, by living in our purpose, it helps us feel prosperous both inside and out. And then for the folks that are already on that personal transformation journey, have already healed the stuff or else wants to heal as they're writing, I help them in the form of ghostwriting, author coaching, editing, and publishing consulting so that we can share those stories that they've healed to help heal the world around us. But today we are talking about one thing technically that we can try to heal, and that's our minds, right? That's like having a renewed mind, or as I often say, a miracle mindset. And so most of us, and I think really almost all of us, don't actually realize that we may or may not have a scarcity mindset or unrenewed mind in certain areas. Most people are not walking around completely having a scarcity mindset, although most of us can probably think of a few folks if we sit back and we're honest. But we do have ways, most of us, especially living a life that's unexamined, where we have scarcity thoughts. We have scarcity mindset. We're kind of lack driven. The way we're even marketed and sold nowadays, it's based on scarcity. So it feeds into that mindset. So today I want to give you, I think I have five. Yes, five. Five's the number of favor. 5 ways that you can identify if you have a scarcity mindset, or if you know that like you can have a tendency to fall into that. So the first one that I feel like is a dead giveaway for having a scarcity mindset is when you focus more on what you don't have rather than what you do have, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about the things they don't currently have in their life and completely focusing on it. Like they might focus on the fact that they don't have the job that they want, or they might focus on the fact they don't have the man that they want, or the relationship that they want, or the house that they want, right? And then pretty soon it snowballs. And if you're focusing all the time on the things that you don't want, that is a clear sign that there is a scarcity mentality, that you are allowing your mind to get caught up on the things that in your life feel scarce or feel like you do not have. And yeah, we all do it, especially when we get encumbered with a really big problem, right? You know, there's a saying that says, you know, either think about the things that you want to have versus praying about the things that you don't want to have, right? Praying about what we don't want is essentially worrying. So if we spend all of our time thinking about what we don't have, we don't have the energy, the resources, or even the proper mindset to actually think about the things that we do have. Okay, so let's go to the second one. And I've got antidotes. For those of you that stay to the end, there's antidotes for all of these things. So the second time is very similar. The second one's very similar to the first. And it's just that we spend more time complaining than we do praising, right? We spend more time complaining than we do praising. So unlike the first one, where someone could just be talking about something they don't have, right? That may not be horrendous. This goes a little bit further, meaning we spend time complaining. We spend time complaining about our lives. We spend time complaining about anything that crosses our path, when instead a more abundant mindset, or a mindset that's focusing on good or attracting or bringing more to of us that's God's best, we're going to spend time praising. We're going to spend time praising our life. We're going to spend time praising God. We're going to spend time around people that have a mindset of praise and not complaint. Praise and not complaint. Because again, if we're focusing on what we don't have, and if we're complaining about what we don't have, that's not helping us bring more of what we would want in our lives. And we're basically praying in a worrying fashion, right? The third thing that's really key for you noticing if you can slip into a scarcity mindset or a lack mindset is when you're constantly comparing yourself to others. All of us do it. All of us do it. At some point in time, all of us do it. It's so easy today, I feel like, with Instagram culture, with Facebook culture, where we've got everyone constantly showing off the things that they're doing. They're taking their best pictures, and folks and friends, how are you defining praising God? Praising the Lord. Praising God. Spending time in worship, spending time, Robert's asking, how are you defining praising God? I would define praising God as a believer. I define God very succinctly, Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, spending time in praise and worship, spending time making sure that your mouth is reflecting the things that you want in your life, spending time focusing on the gifts of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit, so that you can make sure that your life is aligning yourselves with what you want to praise, both God in the way that you want to live God's best versus focusing on what you see as the deficit or lack of it. And then using your mouth, that's the difference kind of between just thinking about it versus complaining, because now we've added the action of our mouth and our tongue. And we know that our mouth and our tongue are super powerful in creating it. Life and death are in the power of our tongue. So I hope that answered your question. But the third one, going back to that, was comparing yourself to others. And so as we know in this culture, it's so easy to compare ourselves to any and everyone that we see or that we follow online, on television. Everyone's putting their best foot forward, high definition, right? The best photos. People are literally going out and getting like Photoshops and everything done, photo shoots to get pictures for Instagram, right? So if you're sitting around not knowing how you are uniquely built, uniquely made, how God made you, then it's really easy. Even the best of us can fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. And when you do that, understand that we're slipping into a scarcity mindset. We're slipping into what we potentially don't have. But we also have to understand that God has prepared our own path. God has prepared a path for each of us based on what we are uniquely designed to do, right? So if you find yourself comparing yourself to others, then we really want to make sure that we are aligning with God and understanding how we were uniquely made, what gifts are there for us specifically, and making sure that we know what our purpose is and aligning to that. It makes it so much easier to stop comparing ourselves to others when we know how we're uniquely gifted and our purpose in life. The fourth, we only got two more. Fourth thing is when we start seeing everyone as competition versus knowing, in fact, you are your biggest competition. So that is, again, going a little bit deeper on the comparison thing. So a lot of us are sitting around comparing ourselves to others. Like, one of the things I loved about International Women's Day yesterday is that people were talking about fabulous women. They were encouraging fabulous women. I know that I have a ton of fabulous women around me that I don't see as competition. I see them as beautiful, uniquely gifted human beings that I love having in my life to strengthen and foster me, for friendships, to learn from, to grow from, and even to collaborate from, right? So when we start seeing everyone as competitive and competition, then we have to look at what do we think is missing in ourselves? Why do we have this competitive or scarce nature that everybody's a competition, right? And in reality, if we actually step back and think about what in fact is our competition is ourselves. Our competition is when we are not operating in our best. Our competition is when we're not in alignment with God. Our competition is when we are allowing lower thoughts and everything to control our lives, right? When we are not living up to our best, when we're not being disciplined and we're not having control, when we're not speaking life into ourselves, right? We are in essence our worst competition. So if we are sitting around worried about what everyone else is doing, comparing, and then we're going to try to compete versus understanding what is our gifting and what is our lane, right? That's when we step and move into abundance mindset. That's when we leave lack and scarcity and get onto a whole new plane where we're talking more about abundance and how can I collaborate and how can I be more loving and how can I learn more and how can I grow? Totally different space. And the last one, and I see that often, and it's across the board, is we are scared to make investments in ourselves, right? In terms of having a scarcity and abundant mindset. Abundant people know that they're not just spending money, right? Because we want to be good financial stewards. We're not talking about that. But oftentimes you will see people that are scared to, spend money to develop themselves, especially outside of the normal, like set in stone pathways. And even that bears to be evaluated, honestly and truly. Like, as a person with multiple degrees, I can truly speak on like whether, certain things were worth it, right? But ultimately, we have to make those decisions, and we have to make them in favor of ourselves, in favor of the investment that we see coming forth from spending time in personal development, spending time helping, spending time in anything that we think is going to help us go from here, right, our here, to our there. So if you find yourself really hesitant to spend money, and in this way, I love to call it an investment into my development and my growth, the chances are that you have at some level a lack mentality or scarcity mentality. And the antidote to that, again, I believe, is understanding who you are, right? Understanding who you are, how you're uniquely gifted. And that comes from having a relationship with God and knowing how you were designed to be. I truly believe that. And evaluating your actual spending. Like, most of us will think nothing about spending $4 a day at Starbucks or whatever over the course of a month. But then when it comes time to spend something on what we really care about, or what something that's really going to help us in the future, we often start choking at that idea. Cindy saying, hey, so true. Comparing and competition are just distractions. Easier to do that than sit down and figure out our own stuff. Exactly. So that's exactly it, Cindy. We spend so much time, and society makes it so easy for us, but we can't let ourselves off the hook in terms of evaluating where we need to grow, who we are, and what we want to do, as well as how I believe God uniquely gifted each and every one of us. There's something that we're put on the planet to do. And when we spend so much time investing into looking at other people and comparing ourselves and then trying to compete, when you're operating in your highest, and I believe God's best, you don't really have competition. You are just simply competing with yourself. And that in itself is a lot of work. That in itself, right? When you start really getting to the nitty gritty of it and understanding who you are, each of us have roadblocks. Each of us have things that we need to overcome and bust through. Like, each of us have mindsets. Like, there's not a single mindset on this thing that I've listed as a scarcity one that I haven't indeed felt at some point in time. But luckily I had God, mentors, coaches, and other people, and just spending time learning about who I am so that I know that I can operate in my lane. And that's actually really different from anyone else, I believe, that's out there. So, I just wanted to get on today to talk about five key ways to know, like, to just double check yourself. Am I suffering from scarcity? Do I have a scarcity mindset? And I believe at the end of the day, especially on the first two, where we're focusing on things we don't have and we're spending time complaining, we want to make sure that we have a gratitude practice. We want to make sure that we are spending time, I believe, with God, but also being thankful for what we currently have, for what we've currently been gifted with. So what we've been currently charged with stewarding, like, do that well. Focus on doing that well. Be content in that moment and be happy and thankful for what we have, while still allowing yourself to want more. But that's totally different than completely focusing on the things that you don't have and then complaining about what you don't have instead of praising some of the things that you do have. So I really enjoy this conversation. So as you can probably guess, I'll be continuing to talk more about mindset and talking about scarcity and abundance. And as I said in the link or in my notes, if you know that you need help, if you know that this is an area where you have a block, if you see yourself in, I would say, at least two of these things, then it's time to shift it into another gear so that you can start having some of the things that you actually really, really want, your heart's desires, and having, I think, the life that God intended for us to have. And that's by being in alignment with God and then tapping into those desires that I believe that God placed there. So for those, if that's you, definitely contact me. I've listed all my information, and I really appreciate all of you guys that are watching. I came on later than normal because it's just been one of those days, but I'm wishing you all an amazing week. And the best compliment, the best tip is for you to share this, to comment, and to love it and not like it. I will talk with you later. Have a great week.